This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 5. Atman bhavaya setani na para bhavayan svayam Atma shaktim avastabhya Urnana bi ivaklama Atman bhavaya setani na para bhavayan svayam Atma shaktim avastabhya Urnana bi ivaklama Atman by self. Baba Yase manifest. Hani all those. Na not. Para Babayan being defeated. Svayam yourself. Atma Shaktim self-sufficient power. Avastabhya being employed. Urnanabi the spider. Eva like. Aklama without help. Translation: as the spider very easily creates the network of its cobweb and manifests its power of creation without being defeated by others, so also you yourself, by employment of your self-sufficient energy, create without any other's help. Translation, please repeat. As the spider very easily creates the network of its cobweb and manifests its power of creation without being defeated by others, so also you yourself, by employment of your self-sufficient energy, create without any other's help. Purport: the best example of self-sufficiency is the sun. The sun does not require to be illuminated by any other body. Rather, it is the sun which helps all other illuminating agents. For in the presence of the sun, no other illuminating agent becomes prominent. Narada compared the position of Brahma to the self-sufficiency of the spider, who creates its own field of activities without any other's help by employment of its own energetic creation of saliva. Atman bhavaya setani na para bhavayan svayam Atma shaktim avastabhya urnanabi ivaklama. The spider very easily creates the network of its cobweb and manifests its power of creation without being defeated by others. So also you yourself, by employment of your self-sufficient energy, create without any other's help. So this chapter entitled Cause of All Causes. What is the cause of all causes? Of course, most of us have thought about that. What's the cause of all causes? What's the cause of this and what's the cause of that? What's the cause of the other thing? And I remember when I was a student, I used to think about that. Where is it? The cause of everything. And I remember one of my friends, we were all living in a house together, and one of my friends got a Back to Godhead magazine and also Ishopanishad from a devotee, and was reading and became quite inclined to the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and he would sometimes speak in the evenings when we're all together and talk about the whole situation, and Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the Supreme, and from him everything emanates, all these things he had learned, just a little bit of reading, he'd kind of more or less accepted it. And but my position was I'd become quite agnostic at that point, and I would argue against, and sometimes for and sometimes against. And I said, well, if Krishna, well, who created Krishna? That was always my trump card. Someone tried to rope me into religiosity. God, yes, God, but who created God? And then actually, when I said that to my fellow student, he didn't have the answer for it. But then he went and talked to the devotees, and then he came back later on and he said, Krishna, no one creates Krishna. That's the meaning of God. He has no other creator. Everything stops there. And then that stumped me. I didn't have an answer for that. I never thought about that. So I always remember, of course, he later became a devotee, and in due course of time there was a few of us who became devotees from that initial discussion and became full-time devotees. So this is the cause of all causes, going back to the point, the title of the chapter, the cause of all causes. That cause that has no other cause, that is Krishna. Now here, Narad Muni is kind of circling back, because previously he was asking in the previous verse, what he said that, who is the source of your knowledge? Under whose protection are you standing? Under whom are you working? What is your real position? Do you alone create all entities by your personal energy? He was asking these questions. But now he's kind of circling about, he's saying that it seems that you are self-sufficient. He's stating that later on we see him come back again. But now it seems that, so he's acknowledging the position of Lord Brahma, his father. He's acknowledging. It seems that you are self-sufficient. And the example is given of the spider. The spider very easily creates a web. And the bigger the spider, the bigger the web. Sometimes you see these huge spiders, especially around here. These gigantic spiders, and they have these gigantic webs. And they very easily, for us to create such a thing, it's a great wonder, but the spider very easily does it by its own energy, coming from the Prabhupada says by the saliva here of the spider, very easily creates it, and it's a whole very wondrous thing. It's a very wondrous thing. So for those who don't know about that web, the little insects fly in there and get caught up and can't get out, and then the spider comes down and wraps them all up and so like that, isn't it? So by its own energy it's doing that. It's not getting help from anywhere else. So therefore, Narad Muni is actually acknowledging Brahma. He's on the macro level. He's arranging the whole creation of this material universe is under the auspices of Lord Brahma, and he's doing it seemingly from his own energy. Now, of course, in the previous verse, Narad actually says, what is the source of your and Prabhupada says here, it's known to Narad that Brahma attained creative energy by undergoing severe austerities. So this is the point. Now, Brahma underwent penance and austerity for a long time to get this. So Narad had the idea, all right, well, why is he doing that? Why is Brahma doing that? Is there someone else that he's getting this power, this energy from? Now, one could conclude that, well, Lord Brahma went into meditation for a long time and just meditated on himself, and from within him, by that process, from within him, he got the energy. It wasn't from anyone else. It was just from him. He just went into samadhi and just garnered all the energy and the power, and out it came. And so no one else was involved. So someone could think like that. No one else was involved. And one could understand why someone who knows about Lord Brahma would conclude, well, he is the Supreme. He is the Supreme. He is the Supreme God of the universe, because he does that. And I was thinking about the gods and the demigods and how much power they have to do amazing things that to us are just incredible. I thought about that. I remember many years ago, Sadhaputta now Prabhu has passed away, but one of his last projects was he was putting together all the similarities between the different ancient cultures of the world and their understanding of gods and so on and so forth. And I was looking into it a bit further, and I remember at the time being very interested to see what came of it. Unfortunately, he passed away before he could finish it. But not only the gods of the world, but all sorts of different similarities. And we have, just like we understand the demigods, different Brahma, of course Indra, and there of course there's Agni and Vayu and so on and so forth. But all the cultures going from the Roman culture, to the Greek, to the African, to the South American, to the so many different cultures. And I was looking this up, just like in the Roman culture. In the early, many of the planets today are named after the names given. The names were given. At least the early understanding of planets. Others were later added, but the early understanding of planets were named by the Romans, and they were like gods. And their names are just like Jupiter. Jupiter was like the king of the gods, and Juno, Minerva, and Neptune. Who do you think Neptune was the god of? Water. Neptune. Venus. Venus is another. So we have these names now, but that we know these planets as Venus and Jupiter and so on. Apollo was another one. So they had and they, of course, they were gods. So Jupiter, and the Greeks also were very famous for having their names. Zeus. Zeus is the equivalent to Jupiter. Zeus was the king of the gods. Poseidon. Hera. Hades. Athena. Because Athens is named after that goddess, Athena. So you have these similarities. And of course in the Norse, in the Scandinavian countries, perhaps a little bit more known today, just like the king of the gods, the god of thunder was known as Thor. Thor. Have you heard of Thor? Well, the kids have heard of Thor. Thor, this was from the Norse culture, Thor. And another one was Odin. And another one was Loki. Of course, Egyptian culture. Amun, Mut, the mother goddess. Right? Ra. Who was Ra? The sun god. And Thoth. Thoth was the god of knowledge and wisdom. Sekhmet, the goddess of war and healing. So you have, and you have in the Aztec, of course these names are a little bit more difficult to say, Tlaloc, the god of rain. And so Mixcoatl, the god of the stars. Aztec, Mayan, African, even African. You have Nana, the mother goddess of the creation, and the mother goddess. I wonder if Nana came from that. Nana, we could say it, Nana. Eshu, Babalu, You have all these names. It's very interesting. Shango, Shango, the god of, is a god of thunder and a warrior god. Ozine, and of water, is the god of water. So you have these similarities there. And many of the cultures mention, the tree of life. The tree of life. Have the Mayan, Aztecs, and also the Norse, and also other cultures. They talk about the tree of life. So in the Vedic cosmology, we know there's on the Mount Meru, there's the tree. The Lord Brahma is there, and so on. And then the other mountains surrounding Mount Meru, there's all these amazing trees. One's a mango, one's like huge, gigantic mangoes that fall down, and they're so big they fall down and create rivers of mango juice. And big, huge, gigantic coconuts or something like that was another big, huge banyan tree which produces honey, and it all comes cascading down. So they're like trees of life. So you'll find actually in these cultures the similarity. There's paintings of the tree of life in the Norse, in the Mayan and Aztec, and the African also. So there's a lot of similarities there. And you go around the world. In my travels also, when you go around the islands, Indonesia is another country. They have all their gods and goddesses and so on and so forth. And also they have the Buddha worship. They have ancestor worship, which is all very similar. All the islands we went traveling around to some years ago. We went to Papua New Guinea, we went to Solomon's, Vanuatu, and so on, and we went to all the islands. And previously, of course, the Christian missionaries came a few hundred years ago, and they established Christianity. But before that, and it's still there, a little bit prevalent, is the God worship, and then ancestor worship, and a lot of Buddha worship also. So all around the world you have these similarities. And these gods, and they worship them, they're very popular. And these days they're making films about the different gods. I mean, they're very interesting. They're amazing personalities. So Brahma is a very amazing personality. He is the first one. And later on he actually says in this chapter that he actually says that it is understandable why many would think I am the supreme. Many would think I was the supreme because this way of thinking is actually given to them from within by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Lord Brahma, he says that, by the illusory energy, by the influence of the illusory energy, by the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they think in that way, because they want to think in that way. Just like one will worship Brahma, one will worship Shiva, one will worship Agni, Vayu, Indra, and this is very much in line with in the Bhagavad Gita, yo yam yam tanum bhakta sara yuchamichiti tasya salam saram tam vidadam yaham. I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to the particular deity. Kaimais taiste data jnana prabhadyante devata tam tam niyamam astakam namami bhakti shaktikam. And the previous verse is that those who have desires, they worship the gods to get something. And so because they have that desire, Krishna allows that desire and makes their faith, all right, you want to worship, you want something, and make your faith steady so then you can be like that. So Lord Brahma actually tells Narad, it's understandable why many think I am the Supreme. Because, the whole creation, everything, Lord Brahma is so fantastic. Lord Brahma has got an ethereal body. There's one description in one Purana that Lord Brahma is so huge, when he goes to different places he changes, he can change his form, he can change his size. And there's one description of the swan carrier of Lord Brahma, that carries Lord Brahma wherever he goes. His foot, the foot of the swan carrier would cover the whole earth. just his foot. He's so big. But they reduce in size wherever they go, and they make themselves visible. We can't see them with these eyes. We can't see them. But they make themselves visible if they want. And Lord Brahma, we can read many stories. Lord Brahma appearing to different devotees who worship him, Lord Shiva appearing, and different demigods appearing to those who worship them. They make themselves visible. So again, this point, he says that it's understandable. And actually in the Vedic literature, you have this reference to the demigods. They're referred to as Bhagavan, Agni Bhagavan, Indra Bhagavan, Brahma Bhagavan. Bhagavan means the possessor of all, the supreme. So they're referred to in that way, and for their devotees, they are considered like that. And Krishna gives them the steadiness and the faith to think, because he's just fulfilling the desires of the individual. But nevertheless, Brahma himself, Narad's saying that it seems he's giving credit. So now here the word is used, Atma Shakti. Atma Shaktim, Atma Shakti. Every individual soul has Shakti, has power. We may not think so, or we may, but certainly, the more materialistic a person is, the more self-centered they are. The more they're thinking of themselves as a center of everything, the doer of everything, and they're seeking. It's like where they're seeking attention, they're seeking power, and if they get something, they very easily they become proud. Very easily. It's like, the more materialistic we are, the more self-centered. As you go to lower in the species, it's very self-centered. As human beings, we're meant to understand something more than just ourselves or our immediate extended self in the form of family and friends and so on. But very, very self-centered and always seeking attention. Like we've got attention-seeking radars out there. Just locked in. This one's giving me attention, so I'll lock in over there. And then I get that attention. And then you possess some power. You did something, and someone says, "Oh, you're so wonderful." Oh, that you become, very affected by that. You very much relish that type of adulation and praise. And then you start to seek it more and more and more. You become dependent on it. Maybe you didn't have so much in the beginning, but then by your activities, and then you become very dependent on it. You become proud. So the living entity in the mode of ignorance, especially, it can become proud very easily. And then that pride turns to arrogance, conceit, and of course, Dambo, Dapo, Bimana, Chakroda, Parasameva, Agyanam, Chapita, Sampata, Sampanamasurim, then it becomes very kind of demoniac. When you become so proud, so arrogant, so conceited, that you start to treat others very roughly and so on and so forth. That's generally how it goes. And then when it goes like that, then you'll get reaction for being like that, and then suffer pride before the fall. Just like Prabhupada some of the old devotees would remember this story. Prabhupada was very fond of telling this story of Purna Musika Baba. Have you heard the story of Purna Musika Baba? Purna Musika Baba means that generally people would go to a great saintly person and seek the blessings. So one time, this mouse was being chased around by cats. So then it was really afraid it was going to be eaten by the cat. So it then went to the saint and begged for blessings of the saint. Yes, what can I do for you? The cat's chasing me. I'm very afraid it's going to kill me and eat me. Turn me into a cat. So then I won't have to worry about the cat. So then the saint said, "Oh, so be it." And the mouse became a cat. Right. So then the cat was running around. Oh, great. No other cats were bothering him. But then the dog started to chase him. Dogs were barking, chasing the cat around, so he was very afraid, running around, the dogs. And he went back to the sage. And he said to the sage, now the dogs are chasing, I'm really afraid. Can you turn me into a dog? Right. So, all right, so be it. You become a dog now. And the dog was very happy. And then, of course, they were living in the forest. And then the dog one time heard a tiger roar. Then the tiger spotted the dog and started chasing after the dog. Right? The dog's running around. So then came back to the sage, huffing and puffing. Please, give me another bit. Turning me into a tiger. So the sage said, oh, so be it, became a tiger. Then there is a big tiger who's going to, be a threat to the tiger. So then, as a tiger, he started looking at the sage and licking his lips like this. And then he was thinking, now I'm a tiger, I can do anything. Why don't I just eat this sage? He can become my dinner. So just as he was thinking like that, because the sage, he could read everyone's mind, he said, oh, you want to eat me, huh? Boom, again become a mouse. And he became a mouse. So this is what's called Purna Musika. Musika means mouse. Purna again. Purna Musika Bhava. Again you become a mouse. So generally we become very puffed up, we get all arrogant and we start to think maybe we're like a god, Others, you search out people who praise you, you only like to be around those type of people, the other ones, you shun them or you just get rid of them or whatever you're going to do with them. And so you live a kind of an illusory kind of life, very illusory life. And you start to think yourself something that you are not. So here, very clearly, Narad Muni very intelligently asks all these questions, makes these statements, asks all these questions. Later on we'll read that Lord Brahma, how nicely he answers. Actually, he's very happy to receive these questions from Narad Muni because now he can answer very nicely. There's some nice prayers, Lord Brahma. When he starts to answer, he begins by offering obeisances to the Supreme Personality. Even though he is so great, he can do so much, still he understands, still he is humble. And to be humble, the Lord Jesus said that the meek shall inherit the earth. To be humble is good. When you're puffed up, how can you learn anything? You know everything already. What's to learn? But actually, the great minds of the world, when you read some of their statements, many of them say that the more we know, the more there is to know. And the other point made here, that Narad understood that Brahma underwent austerities to get this, so he was thinking that there's someone else. And Prabhupada makes the point, later on he'll make the point that in one of the purports, he said the God doesn't need to follow any process to become God. You don't need to do tapasya, you don't need to pray to anyone else. You yourself, God is God, and there's no need to do anything. Can immediately just manifest anything he wants. So this is the main point here that is made by Srila Prabhupada. I remember this statement by George Bernard Shaw, a little derogative to the teachers, but there was one statement he made. He said that those who can do, and those who can't teach. Of course, a little derogative to teachers, because actually someone who's a proper teacher can, and that's why he can teach properly. But anyway, he said like that. And then others added after that, someone else added, I thought this was, and those who can't teach, they just talk. So there's a lot of talkers in the world, isn't there? A lot of talk. They just talk. They say, sometimes we call them dreamers. They're dreamers. They talk about doing things. They talk as if they've already done them, but actually they haven't done them. Right? They haven't done them. They talk in such a way and present themselves as a kind of an expert in the field, but they're just talking. And can you show me anything that you've done? And then change the subject. Move it. My experience has been like, what have you done? Okay, can you show me anything? No, let's talk about this over here now. So those who can do, at least the first part of that, those who can do. So those who can do. So there's no need to do anything else, you just do it. So that is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No need for meditation, no need for yoga process, no need for great tapasyas, no need to work out or whatever it is. You're just the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's no one, the cause of all causes. The cause of all causes. Now, these days, of course, many don't like to attribute a personality to who is the cause of all causes. Some say it's just nature, it is coming just about automatically or just naturally like that. But there is a personality, there are personalities who control different aspects, and there's one personality over and above all. So many cannot attribute a personality to it. And that actually, it shows a weakness in themselves and a deep-seated envy of the personality of Godhead. So what is your real position? Do you alone create by your own personal energy? And then he says it appears that way, that you are doing so great. It doesn't appear you're taking help from anyone else. So Narad Muni is posing different questions and presenting different scenarios, and then we'll read a little bit down in the chapter how Lord Brahma very nicely answers all these questions. But very interestingly, he says, I can understand why people would think I am the Supreme. So that shows that he is very humble. And we know the story of the Brahma Vimohana Leela, where he came and didn't think Krishna, he was suspecting Krishna, is he the Supreme, and he tested Krishna. Later on he prayed to Lord Krishna that he would take a birth and remain humble. He didn't want to be affected by pride, and he would always remain humble in the future. So he was given the opportunity to come as Haridas Thakur and assist Lord Chaitanya in his Leela, and he was always in the humble position. So humble is good. And even though we may have great powers and talents, we should never become puffed up. And it's not so easy to not become puffed up, because the tendency is like that. We get a little talent, we can do a thing, and then people start praising you, you feel good. You want to hear more. So easy. It's so easy. You have to catch yourself. And don't become puffed up. If you've got something, you have to be thinking like that. Don't become puffed up over this thing. Don't, people want to take credit. And we did so many big, huge projects, and this is my project. I remember I had to I was in America, in Seattle, and one devotee came in and he was showing me around the temple and everything, and he said, all this stuff here, I did all that, and I arranged all this, and I did that, And then after a little while I said, a devotee just always acknowledges that it's through Krishna that we're able to do these things, and not that I'm taking credit for everything that goes on around the place. So I had to slightly admonish him for taking credit for everything around the place. And sometimes, you didn't even do it, but you're so attached to taking the credit, you take the credit anyway. The other person did it and said, "No, I did that. Oh, I thought they did that. Oh, well, I organised it." I organised it. All right, thank you very much. I'll read this verse again if anyone has any questions, comments. As the spider very easily creates the network of its cobweb and manifests its power of creation without being defeated by others, so also you yourself, by employment of your self-sufficient energy, create without any other's help. Any question or comment? Yes.
Thank you for your class. Just on that point, some sort of psychologists and people say that there's some psychologists and experts in this field of sort of the mind that talk about the need to make yourself big externally. I did this, I did that, whatever. let's say it's actually, you know, a symptom of internal weakness, you're actually insecure. So is there some truth in that?
Oh yeah, it's insecurity. It's an overcompensation for insecurity that you have to project yourself in a big way. But actually, generally people who do like that, and all of us are kind of in this category really, we over-project our own self, and that's to cover up our own insecurity. Sometimes we don't consciously know it. No, but I have to say though, there's another level of confidence as mentioned by Rupa Goswami, Utsahan Nisyata Tat Tat Kambhapata. That Utsahan, one has to be confident in devotional service, but that confidence is not arrogance. That confidence is by the mercy of Krishna. I'm able to do, by the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of my Guru, by the mercy of the devotees, I will be able to do devotional service and try my best to please the devotees, to please my Guru, to please Krishna. And one has to have that confidence. And so that's a humble confidence. A humble confidence. You're working, but you're understanding that so many others are empowering you to do that. So one needs that. One needs confidence. One needs enthusiasm. One needs determination, but not in a proud, arrogant way. So that takes a little bit of learning from how to have this type of quality, and a little training. Prabhupada would often say to us, when he noticed something we were doing wrong, he said, "You boys and girls, sometimes you're acting like mlechas." but I'm training you how to come up to the higher level. I'm training you. Yes, one last question we have time for.
You mentioned about how actions speak louder than words. We hear about achar and prachar. So for devotees, how do we balance it? People have also different natures. Some people talk less and act more, like there's different variations.
Well, everyone to his own capacity. Just like, the story of the spider, Lord Ram, when the bridge to Lanka was being built. There's a story of a spider helping to build a bridge and kicking in little grains of sand. And then Hanuman was picking up big boulders and throwing them in, and he had to kind of walk around the spider. So after a while he said, just go to the side. He didn't think it's so significant, but Lord Ram chastised him and said, no, he's doing it to his capacity. And you shouldn't chastise him. So each one to their capacity, and how to balance all these things. That you have to work yourself out, taking advice from the devotees and from your guru and from the Shastra. You can learn how to balance these things out. That takes some training. Again, this point of training. We need to be trained to perceive these things, to understand these things. We may think we know what is a balance for ourselves or what is best for ourselves, but quite often we don't. We don't know ourselves. So therefore, take help from others. That's always the instruction from the Shastra, from the Guru, from the Vaishnava. Take help from others. Be humble. Just don't be afraid to take help from others. Don't be too proud to take help from others. Admit your own position of subordination and inability. And then Krishna will help you, and you'll be helped in so many ways how to understand all these things. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.